I've met someone. Therefore, I won't be returning. Improved and have already relocated your belongings. Told me name is Leonard Kessler, and I am 54 years old. I'm looking at my phone in the age of at 11:42, our Des Moines condos kitchen Thursday at p.m. My wife Dana was intended to occur on the fourth day of a girl's journey to Palm Springs. The text included an image of a bank move. $118,000 was transferred from our joint funds to her individual account. I put my phone away and completed my coffee's 15-year marriage ended in divorce. Months' worth of phrases and a screenshot weekend trips had been indicated. That was longer-fitting new clothing. She had never been around calls that stopped as soon as I walked into a room and saw I'm a forensic accountant. That's all. Identifying differences is what I do to a living, but I remained silent. Perhaps that was my first error, or perhaps the error was getting married to someone who believed all I did for a living was spreadsheets and dull. I opened my laptop and looked at the stats. Dana didn't use one of my email accounts. I am aware that there were 3 notifications from someone had a bank security system. Tried to modify the passwords on accounts that Dana was unaware of being meticulous. I had to acknowledge that I took out my phone and entered 2 terms. Good luck in replying. I immediately gave my brother a call. Jason, do you recall the backup plan we talked about 5 years ago? I remarked when he responded that it's, "Are you sure?" He said, and I said, "Yes." She simply made her. I hung up and took a quick look at the wedding picture shown on the wall was of the condo sold image that still had. I should have seen that we were both in it. I also met Dana Bowman at an alumni event. I was at a University of Iowa function. 38, just got divorced from a brief first marriage. And gave all of their attention to expanding my practice in forensic accounting. Dana, 34, was vivacious, aspirational, and utterly disinterested in my actions, for I don't have to comprehend a living. She would provide facts every time I attempted to make an argument, as long as you sufficient for our survival. After a year of dating, we were married. Funded the opening of her yoga studio. The whole endeavor for my funds, while she wants a larger home in a better location. Neighborhood. I consented when she requested costs of holidays and fancy cars. I signed the checks and nodded, saying, "My father cautioned me when we were repairing his hammer in hand," and he hesitated, saying, "Deck, son, your wife seems to spend a lot of you attentively. Just make money," he advised. "I'm sure she appreciates the work you put in to earn it." I ignored him, but the remark persisted. After 6 years of marriage, I started to discreetly reorganize my assets. Nothing unlawful, just protective. Established 2 limited liability businesses. Reputable trusts that made cryptocurrency investments. Also kept up accounts abroad for worldwide. Dana's clients were aware of our cooperation. Savings and checking, but nothing more. Observed as she grew more a part of fitness influencer networks. Her Instagram following expanded to become she began traveling with thousands of her first weekends in the health community. Then you wouldn't enjoy it for weeks. "It's all juice and yoga talk," she would remark. Cleans, but she neglected my last Christmas. Birthday when I brought it up the following. She got me a pricey watch that day and declared, "I've simply been really busy with I took the watch as part of the studio expansion." However, I completed the paperwork that evening. The indicators on my backup plan were I simply didn't want to see the entire complete image. The morning following her text, I up early and prepared coffee in the same manner, as habits are difficult to break no matter what. I logged in when your world fell apart. Into my main financial administration system specifically designed for my profession, but modified for individual use using a few keystrokes. I turned on the backup. Jason and I had spent years designing the protocol. I had previously frozen all joint accounts and credit cards, after which I set off a fraud warning on the transferring $118,000 through my banking connections to speed up the procedure. I sent financial paperwork. Wrongdoing to my lawyer in addition to guidelines of filing for divorce right away. So I phoned I said simply that Mother Dana had left me, moved my belongings out, and stole the money, while she was purportedly on. My mom was quiet for a while on vacation. I apologize, Leonard, for finally stated, but I can't claim to be shocked by what will you do what I've spent years preparing to do. I said, protect what's mine, and after an hour, my phone glowed when I turned down 10 more calls with Dana's name. There were calls, then a text. "What the devil? Did you take my cards and the money? Don't work. Instead of responding, I drove to the warehouse specified in her SMS message with the code she provided. I took out 2 boxes containing my clothing and my laptop, the remainder of my possessions, and my family pictures, books, and mementos from my dad were not present. So that's when this wasn't anything that hardened in me. No longer only about money. It was around 15 years thrown away without hesitation. It concerned a person who believed they could remove me from my own existence. I paused to open my laptop in a coffee cafe, utilizing financial databases that are exclusively accessible to. I retrieved a list of certified investigators. All the information I could find about Trey Harmon Dana, a fitness influencer, has been tagging someone in pictures for months. I wish he had shared what I discovered. Verified what I suspected about Trey's gym. The business was heavily leveraged. A lease and fully utilized business credit cards he was unable to pay, and Dana had already co-signed with him for a vehicle loan too. I shut down my laptop months ago, and for the first time, I drove to a hotel in years. I was quite certain of what I was no longer angry because it had to be done. I was concentrated Monday morning. I entered my workplace as though nothing had occurred. Valerie, the assistant, looked up, shocked. Leonard, I assumed you would be. Dana called here 3 times while on vacation. Periods I didn't ask her a question. She did it already. She added with a distressed tone that there was a miscommunication with your accounts and have to get to you. I nodded urgently if she called again. Tell her to get in touch with my lawyer before noon. Dana's calls had increased to the receptionist's appearance in person buzzed my office to let me know your wife was here. Quite obstinate. I sighed and made my way to the designer. Dana was standing in the lobby. She pushed her sunglasses back on her head and did yoga. She grinned. Her outfits nicely harmonized. She smiled the same when she saw me. Utilized for 15 years when she desired Leonard, there has been a significant miscommunication with the bank. She stated so that everyone can hear all of our accounts are frozen. Not a miscommunication. I stated you made a discreet money transfer without permission. The bank marked it as her smile wavered. But it was our jointly, I'm your spouse. You are my soon-to-be ex-wife, and you drained me. Our savings while telling me that you had left and met a new person whose financial textbook misbehavior. Her voice fell to a hiss. You can't harm me like this. I've already deposited money at a new location that I've made promises to Trey. Yes, Harmon, I am fully aware of those. Promises. Her face turned white. You're just protecting, looking into my number. I'll defend myself against fraud, she said. I deserve half of everything that I've examined, her equally half of those accounts' contents, yes. However, it appears that you are under the it seems like that's all she has. Blinking. Perplexed. What are you saying? Concerning what you'll learn in discovery, I muttered before turning and returning to my workplace. I got an email that afternoon from Dana's recently hired lawyers requesting instant access to all financial documents and threatening to reveal anomalies in my bookkeeping. I was considered an amateur if I didn't cooperate. Move a menace without any real support. I sent it to my lawyer along with a single line, ask as planned. Dana rallied by the evening. Mutual friends on my phone and her side slew of texts inquiring as to why I was being spiteful and dominating. Nobody had inquired about her previous whereabouts. Nobody inquired about her week or who she had been with. Regarding the cash she had stolen, I didn't. Rather than replying, I went to the gym rather than Trey's ostentatious or Dana's studio workout facility, yet the tiny neighborhood center that I had visited for years. Weightlifting till my arms began to shake, returned to my hotel by car. The trap was closing in the room, but it wasn't around. 3 days later, my lawyer called and discovered something intriguing. She said that Dana had been embezzling money for more than a year from your joint account minor transfers first, followed by greater ones where I inquired. Even though I had already knew several accounts, some of which he's savings for an individual, but mostly for a business LLC that is nearly registered to Trey Harmon. She used our joint and spent a total of $80,000. Yes, money is source. Thus, we can supplement the financial infidelity. I thanked her and hung up after filing for a divorce. Although I wasn't shocked, confirmation Dana, it still felt like a kick to the belly. Hadn't simply abandoned me for another person. She had spent more than a year organizing it, financing both a departure and her new partners doing business with my money that evening. I got a text message from you should distance yourself from an unknown number. Dana is worthy of more than you provide. This is more ugly than it should be. Trey Harmon getting immediately involved. Interesting. I went to my brother's house by car. Jason worked in the house the following morning. The ideal complement is digital security. to my knowledge of finance. We'd worked together on cases in the past, but this was different, and I need all of your help. I informed him about Harmon Fitness LLC, bank data, credit applications, and loaned Jason raise a legal eyebrow at everything. Channels exclusively, yes. We're just connecting, of course. Public dots more quickly than most individuals. Could we have our answer 3 hours later? Not only was Trey Harmon in debt, but he was beneath what his social media account showed accomplishment. But his company was struggling. Growth, new machinery, and promotional activities that are fully financed by hazardous loans, including Dana's more recent investments. But there was another factor. Something Dana was unable to possess known. Have a look at this, Jason pointed out. Harmon applied for a little screen. Used the gym 4 months ago for a business loan. Equipment used as security, I said. That's normal. But look who I leaned forward and co-signed the document. Displayed the signature of Dana on as she co-signed a $175,000 equipment loan. Jason murmured softly before she left you. However, the loan specifies the following. Shared accountability with her spouse, they took advantage of your marital situation to obtain better words. I gazed at the screen that she displayed. Resources liable for his loan without my knowledge precisely. And there are 3 more credit cards, auto loans, and the just renting a business space, all co-signed by all of you are using your marital assets. Dana, I got up as security and went to the children were playing outside the window. The adjacent yard, unaware of the adult problems in her life, I finally said, I have no idea what she's done. And he doesn't either. I had a meeting with my lawyer the following morning and outlined all that we had discovered. I already informed her that I wanted to move fast. They understand what's occurring. She looked over the paperwork and nodded. We'll submit an emergency asset request. Safeguarding today. The loan fraud on its own is sufficient to keep everything frozen until that afternoon. The divorce was finalized. I went to Harmon Fitness, which was sleek, contemporary, and inspirational trays, and the words painted on the walls face emblazoned on the doorway within their 20s wearing pricey exercise equipment took photographs. In between grumpy, so Trey saw me right away, and he was taller in person because of the fake tan and the capped teeth of a person who had constructed he walked their career on appearance. Overhand smile that is flawlessly extended. You must be Leonard, he calibrated. Declared, Dana's mentioned you. I'm sure, I said, she has, without grasping his hand. We must speak privately. Although his smile wavered, he took me to his office, which had a transparent glass wall, soundproof to everyone. But what can I do for you? He inquired as he shut the door. I placed a folder on his desk. Does each financial document have a connection? You to Dana credit card leases and loans co-signed with our joint assets. As security. He took the folder in his hands. Cautiously, I don't realize it's easy. Dana utilized our matrimony to support your company financing right away our divorce is final, and those assurances are invalid. His face lost its color. As he turned the pages of these are all valid business agreements. Perhaps between Dana and me. But the banks authorized them using our combined assets and revenue that she no longer possesses as access to the folder. He closed it. And what do you want me to do? Nothing. I just believed you ought to be aware of what's approaching. Those loans will be called by the banks. Because of the fact that soon after, Dana mentioned that you were rich, stating unequivocally that money isn't in for you. Money has never been the problem. I responded. Believe that I stood up to departed, but stopped again at the door. Dana removed several things once she moved out. Things that have special meaning for my family, pictures of my father's watch, money, and other items cannot substitute. He gazed at me for a long time. I nodded. I'll see what I can do in a moment, and departed. A box was delivered by courier the following day. Inside my hotel were the missing pictures of my dad's watch and other personal belongings without a notice included my lawyer the same day. Verified the protection of emergency assets. Had been given access to all common resources. Stay frozen until the divorce was finalized. Completed. I went into my financial management system and examined that Dana had tried to gain access to our 17 times in the last 24 hours. The account was frozen. She had also attempted to open a new credit line that uses our house as collateral. Denied. Her name appeared on my phone. Once more, I responded, What have you finished? She demanded, her voice trembling. The bank called in all of Trey's loans. The equipment is being seized by them. The following day. That's regrettable, I responded. Calmly, Leonard, this is retaliatory. You're ruining him in order to exact revenge. I'm not harming him in any way. Just shielding myself from deception. Utilize our union to obtain his loans. Without my awareness or approval. That's we can figure this out illegally, she added, abruptly becoming softer. Come home. We'll discuss. After 15 years of marriage, she still believed that I was manipulable because there is nothing to work on. Out, I answered. The separation with the fraud probe will continue. Keep going, and Trey will discover a costly lesson about exercising careful diligence, blocked her number, and hung up the phone. I slept better that night than I had in 3 weeks after that. I sat in a conference room while Dana's lawyer came for our mediation, which was mandated by the court. She was worn out from the expensive dress, and the strain is visible despite flawless makeup. Her lawyer was the first to speak, and my client is willing to exercise reasonable judgment regarding the allocation of resources in spite of the aggressive strategies used so far by the lawyer grinned courteously, which is nice to hear because something has happened. She moved a piece of paper across the table. The bank has finished its fraud. Investigation. They found that Leonard's signature was faked by Dana on several loan paperwork with their collateralized by marital assets. Without his, Dana's lawyer quickly glanced over the face-paling document. We'll need some time to examine this. Of course, my lawyer advised. However, you ought to be aware that the bank has already sent the issue to this meeting. District Attorney. Is a civility prior to the filing of criminal charges filed. Dana's eyes were wide as she gazed at me. Leonard, you cannot be charged with any crimes. Serious. I steadily met her gaze. I failed to submit the charges that the bank did. That's what it cares when you take out a loan. Fraud. Something was whispered by her lawyer. She vigorously shook her head in her A. Should Ms. Bowman agree to sign our suggested settlement deal today, the lawyer went on, Leonard is ready to give the bank a declaration that could lessen the criminal ramifications. He will not file charges. For stealing someone else's property or the unlawful withdrawal from a joint account, I observed as Dana's meticulous when the built universe fell apart. She'd anticipated rage, envy, and even pleading that she hadn't anticipated repercussions. The settlement is generous, I remarked softly. You maintain your yoga studio that consistently made money. You maintain your personal belongings and vehicle, possessions for which you are not paid alimony, and you take ownership of the debts. You got involved in my name and Trey, she said in a scarcely audible voice. Mr. Harmon's financial problems are audible. My lawyer decision. I turned to leave without glancing. Mountain views were displayed on her Instagram, and motivational sayings regarding new initially. Trey's gym was sold to a nationwide chain, and he had moved to Miami will increase as neither of them mentioned the brand that had occurred. People hardly ever promote their shortcomings. One Saturday, my brother Jason came over. In order to assist me with installing new cabinets, and the herd have made certain that. I shrugged. What would be the reason she isn't mine? Issue. We worked in a cozier period of quiet, the beat of calculating, cutting, mounting, and producing in a state of meditation. I'm contemplating, I finally stated. I'm taking some time off. Maybe take a trip to Minnesota and conduct some at the cabin, fishing. Dad would want, Jason answered, that you haven't been there ever since he died. That night I took a seat on my back porch after Jason left. Enjoying a sip of bourbon in the community was peaceful, with the exception of the occasional dog bark or a youngster's laughter shattering the quiet that differs from the high-end community that Dana had demanded was more genuine. I somehow remembered the previous 15 years in which I had permitted someone else to describe my life, my value, and how I've noticed the indications, but decided to disregard them, and how I had been ready when the time came. Since a part of me had always understood when this day came, I didn't feel triumphant, but I didn't feel validated. Simply felt liberated. So I called the following morning. I informed my office that I would be I took a few weeks off before locking up my truck. Heading north after going up the house. No itinerary, with no preconceived notions, and only the open road. And for the first time in a long time, no invisible record of grievances against equilibrium.